Once the silver moon hung low above the narrow alleys of the old port town of Carindale, Elara slipped the delicate anklet onto her ankle. It was silver, filigreed with tiny seashell motifs, and the faint sparkle of moonlight captured in its curves. She had found it in the dusty corner of a long-forgotten chest in the back room of her grandmother's cottage, wrapped in a scrap of faded velvet. Her grandmother had warned her, "Do not wear it at night by the tide," she said, voice trembling. But Elara was proud, defiant even. She wanted something beautiful, something singular in a world that often overlooked her. From the moment the anklet clasped around her ankle, the air seemed to hiss. The tide outside the cottage rose higher than usual, rushing into the stone byways, kissing Elara's toes as she leaned out the window to breathe salt air. She shivered, not just from the cold wind, but from the queer sensation that her ankle was warm, almost alive. In the following days, strange things began to happen. At dawn, she would find footprints leading from her bedroom window to the shore, though she had not walked. Whispering voices under her breath, heard when she lay awake at midnight. The tide would carry up objects, shards of porcelain, a rusted key, a piece of driftwood carved with unknowable runes. And always at the edge of the sea, she caught a silver gleam under the waves, like the anklet reflecting moonlight. Friends began to avoid her. They said she looked tired, haunted. Elara brushed it off, telling them she was simply restless with the change of season. Meanwhile, she wore the anklet everywhere. She loved how it chimed faintly when she walked, a soft lullaby of silver and sea. But her nights were restless. Dreams came. A woman with sea-green eyes reached out from the waves, saying in a voice like breaking glass, "Return what you have taken." Elara woke with her heart pounding, the anklet heavy on her skin. One evening, as the tide was highest, Elara followed the footprints again, this time unconsciously, down to the beach. The moon was full and silver, the waves crashing higher than she remembered. The anklet felt unbearably hot, pressing into her skin. She kneeled on the edge of the water and saw her reflection in the wet sand, pale, wide-eyed, and behind her in the reflection, the woman with sea-green eyes, her arms rising from the water, as though to pull Elara in. Panicked, Elara stood and tried to run, but the tide reached for her. She screamed when icy fingers curled around her ankle. The anklet glowed in moonlight, and the sea-green woman's voice resonated around her. "Return what you have taken." Elara whimpered. She tore the anklet off and flung it into the surf. It spun on the waves, silver against black water, and sank beneath the moonlit ripples. The water calmed. The whispers ceased. In the days that followed, Elara felt a bittersweet relief. She no longer heard voices at midnight, no longer saw footprints in the sand. Yet something was gone. The promise of uniqueness, of something magical, had cost her peace. Her ankle felt bare, vulnerable, but cleaner. She resumed her normal routines, but the sea always called to her still. On stormy nights, she imagined the glint of silver under the waves, and wondered if the anklet had found its way back to the depths, or if the curse still awaited the next unsuspecting foot to slip it on. Because magic, she realized, seldom gives without taking. And some treasures are better left unseen, submerged in moonlight and sea salt brine. Weeks passed, and the sea grew quiet. Elara believed the nightmare was over, that the silver anklet now rested beneath the waves where it belonged. But on a wind-swept morning, as fishermen dragged in their nets along the rocks, one of them found something tangled among the kelp, a silver anklet, glinting with wet moonlight even under the sun. He handed it to his daughter, a visiting student named Marin, who wore it out of curiosity, thinking it a gift from sea. Elara noticed her in town one afternoon and froze. The anklet. It was unmistakable. Elara's heart dropped. She tried to warn Marin, begged her to take it off, but Marin only laughed, until she too began to dream of the woman in the sea. But this time, the dreams were sharper. The sea spirit's voice was no longer pleading, it was angry. Storms hit Carindale like never before, and the waves crept higher up the roads, swallowing boats and flooding basements. Marin began to change, her eyes dulled, her skin paled, and her voice echoed faintly like it was carried on sea wind. Elara knew then, the curse had not ended. It had only shifted. The spirit was not satisfied with the anklet being returned. It wanted restitution. A life. A debt repaid. Marin stood at the shoreline one night, trance-like, the anklet glowing hot. Elara tried to intervene, but the tide rose unnaturally fast, crashing with violent fury. She fought through the water, grabbing Marin's wrist, pleading. And for a moment Marin's eyes cleared, but behind her, the sea spirit rose, now fully formed, tall, elegant, terrifying, with seaweed hair and eyes like polished emeralds. "You were warned," it hissed. The price was not paid. The anklet burst into silver flame, and Elara made a desperate choice. She ripped it from Marin's ankle and clasped it onto her own. The spirit paused. The waves froze mid-rise, suspended like glass. "You claim a debt?" the spirit asked. Elara nodded. "Then come," it whispered. The tide swallowed her, gently this time, like a mother pulling a child home. Marin collapsed on the shore, alive, the curse lifted. But Elara was gone. Some say she drowned. Others say she became part of the sea, her spirit watching over the coast. And sometimes, when the moon is high and the tide is calm, you can hear a chime of silver beneath the waves, a lullaby for the one who took the curse upon herself.